My name is Beres Gwyn. I'm Australian and I've been working in Geneva now for 6 years. I started my professional life as an Australian diplomat, working in a number of postings around the world, but mid-career decided that I would rather work in international development, so I joined the Australian Aid Program and then found my way into the non-government organisations still working in international development. I started my international cooperation life with a high school exchange program, as it happens. And then when I had decided that history and government and politics were going to be my areas of specialisation at university, I was also successful in obtaining a Rotary Foundation Fellowship. So these are opportunities for young people today to broaden their perspectives, if you like, and certainly that was the effect for me. So I joined the Foreign Affairs Department on the basis of that experience, but as I mentioned, midway through my career, became more interested in international law issues, so I went back to university to do a postgraduate diploma in international law. And then another 10 years or so later, decided that I wanted to continue to learn, and perhaps this is another message, that we have to continue to learn. The world is changing so quickly. So I now also have a master's degree in international relations. Here in Geneva, I'm representing World Vision International. World Vision is a very large international NGO working in emergency response, in long-term development and in advocacy. And I'm World Vision's representative in relation to the United Nations organisations and other bodies that are here. I started out, I think, at university interested in history and political science and political economy, but soon found my way into spaces where I recognised the injustice in the world and the needs of people who are living in poverty with few opportunities to improve their lives. And so that's what drew me to work with, first from Foreign Affairs into the Aid Program, and then from the Aid Program into working with non-government organisations. Within the international development world, if you consider the range of activities from long-term development through to emergency response, there are all sorts of possible careers in international development or international cooperation. In my case, I started looking at intergovernmental relations, so issues like international trade, whether trade rules are fair for developing countries, for example. Mid-career, I became interested in human rights issues because I had a particular experience in one of my postings where international law seemed to favour the most powerful, and I felt that it was important that the less powerful also be protected by international law. So human rights is another possible area of work. But apart from particular sectors, health, environment, or agriculture and so on, the most important aspects for my role, I think, are in relation to advocacy and influencing, so communication skills are important. Negotiation, rapport building, sometimes we have different points of view with the people we're meeting and we have to know when to be strong and courageous in stating our point of view and when to try to find ways to negotiate. It's really exciting to have a job that gives meaning, and I think that's where the international cooperation and international development field allows us as individuals to have some sense of fulfillment as human beings, that we're contributing to society, hopefully to a more peaceful and more equitable world. It's also, I think, important for me, because World Vision is a Christian organisation, that I have a chance to apply those values that I hold because of my Christian background as principles that need to be applied in how we do business. As I mentioned before, when I was still in the Foreign Affairs Department with the Australian Foreign Ministry, I was on an assignment where there were particular international law issues, where it seemed to me that there was need for us to find more effective ways to include the less powerful in discussions of international cooperation. And that, I think, was the most impactful event in my life, because it resulted in my changing focus from the world of diplomacy to what I found was a more real environment in international cooperation. International Geneva was, for me as a young diplomat, the hoped-for assignment, because there's such a concentration here in Geneva of social, economic, environmental, peace and disarmament organizations and institutions, not only intergovernmental but in the academic sphere. Even private sector companies that are based here are more aware of global development issues than you might find in some other parts of the world. So for Geneva International, it's a concentration of high-level expertise, influential people. It's absolutely the place to be if you want to be involved in international cooperation. Because I'm at the final stages of my career, I think probably what I would say to young people is that the employment environment has changed in amazing ways since I started. When I was a young person coming out of university, it seemed that you would choose a career and that you would follow that career for 10 or 20 or 30 years. What we're finding now is that the international development skills that I developed in a governmental context are just as important for major companies these days, given the impact of globalization. So I think I would be emphasizing the need for young people to be critically aware of how the world is and how it operates, because we are sometimes fooled into thinking that things are in a certain way, when in fact, if we provoke questions, we find that there are other possibilities for us to have an influence. So to have a critical mindset, to be open to all sorts of opportunities and not to box yourself into one particular area of work. Because as I've discovered, I would be just as comfortable now working in government or in NGOs or in some of the large private sector companies that are also taking development cooperation seriously.